Would I recommend this build? No, unless you're a special kind of person. The true name of this build is Chaos Conversion Ethereal Knives Fury Valve Occultist. We're going to talk about the gameplay, gear, supporting skill gem choices, skill supports, curses, curse supports, ascendancy, defenses, atlas strategy, and then some final thoughts. I love Fury Valve EK because it's just so comfy. You throw a knife and it auto targets 14 surrounding people. If you have Tornado, then you can just hit a rolling target that lets you lame out some encounters. Like, look at this. I'm basically shooting around a corner. A close second is Void Spear. This skill is great while leveling. It converts Fizz to Chaos, so Breath of the Council does a bunch of damage while also... Okay, so it doesn't stop you from getting hit by on-death effects for some reason. It stops like 50% of them. It just removes corpses in case you wish you were playing Viscera Cleanup Detail. Why do I still get hit by porcupines with Void Spear? This is really stupid. Gear. It's okay. Resistance gloves with % Fizz converted to Chaos when uniques are around are a huge boon to our damage. Our shield isn't Wrathpit's Glove because it's great at damage but completely ruins my survivability. I have a Dowager's hat with +2 curse, giving a decent amount of added damage and curse levels against triple cursed bosses. My boots have movement speed. This league added some very strong supports with Spellblade support and returning projectiles. So I've been using that with the +2 Pierce wheel on the tree for a decent clear. For damage, we have Awakened Controlled Destruction because I'm not lucky enough to crit that often. Awaken added Chaos damage because it's more damage than added Chaos. And Anomalous Vial Toxins, which sounds scary, but at 8 poisons on the enemy we get 40% more hit damage, which is great. It unfortunately makes clear damage slightly lower, as you basically only get them more damage because a different support would have outright killed them. But I don't like gem swapping, so it is how it is. Oh, and it's anomalous because it increases the duration of poison, which combos with my next topic, curses. For this build we're using Despair, Temporal Chains, and Enfeeble. When I was leveling I used Vulnerability instead of Enfeeble, but as we got more chaos damage it started getting weaker, so I swapped it out for Enfeeble, which helped me stay alive. Despair, because it reduces chaos resist, but Temporal Chain serves a few purposes in this build. First, we're always trying to keep our Wither lasting as long as possible because it's a very strong increased damage taken effect. We can only slow it down 25%, so at best it's lasting 2.5 seconds, but hey, longer than it should. But also, it increases the duration of our poisons. We have some poison durations, they end up lasting 3.5 seconds, which is comfy. Combined with our Tornado, which is a max poison stack amount of 13, we hit our peak DPS against bosses pretty fast. My curses are supported by Hex Boom, which thankfully doesn't have a reduced cursed effect penalty, so I can use it for mapping. It's not super necessary, but there are situations where cursing a pile of white monsters will spread around to the rares eventually. I rolled Occultist for this attempt at EK, and it's okay. It's fine. I think Assassin is stronger Napkin DPS, but Occultist might be beefier on the Excel spreadsheet damage. At least with my currently equipped gear. Occultist has a lot of yeah okay effects, like reducing life regen rate to 0, having stun immunity, at least if you don't get hit twice in our degen, and the ability to curse hexproof enemies. However, the major damage effect is Withering Presence. 15% more chaos damage is nice, but for me it's the extreme Wither. The Wither effect lasts 15 seconds, so with Temporal Chains it's almost 18 seconds long, and since it's slowly stacking over the course of a fight, most bosses are just getting weaker if you manage to prolong the fight. It's pretty strong. So I think we gotta talk about defenses. They stink. I just have a little spell suppression, so I'm not taking as much damage as I would, but our ES functions as a you got hit indicator most of the time, and our evade chance is pretty weak. However, we got some curses. Temporal Chains is a big contributor, slowing the fights down so even my old man reactions can dodge is great. It does have some weirdness. I know the Eater of Worlds fight felt very weird because his extremely large slam took extra seconds to come off. The other effect is Enfeeble, which reduces damage dealt. This helps in mitigating small hits from both normal and rare monsters, and also sometimes bosses occasionally. We do blind with curses, but only for 4 seconds. With Enfeeble, this makes it very unlikely that attacks will hit us, so the effect is only really useful during mapping. But that's about it. We have some get-by defenses, but we won't win encounters that have a large number of accurate enemies. Speaking of accurate enemies, Rogue Exiles. This league I did the Ghost strategy, fighting a bunch of boosted exiles and truly awful bosses. The rewards were pretty bad, basically only giving me rare jewelry from exiles, and bosses dropping tons of rare stabs that I could not care about. If you do the chaos recipe, I think this might be heaven for you, but for me, it was a weird hell. I do like the unique drop rate at least, but mostly as a novelty. Money made was from ghosts outside rares running around and touching people. My build isn't zoomy enough to take advantage of the keystone either. Expedition's Big Boom keystone was great. This build can absolutely lame out some fights against them, so unless they were hasted or given turbo by the map, they typically got tornadoed to death. So should you play this? No. This build is great at stomping yellow maps, but I think most builds can claim that title. There's a metric shit ton of grinding left for this build to be able to kill the final bosses of the game, at least comfortably. You don't get room for many mistakes in this build, and while it's appealing for some people, for me it's just kind of frustrating. If I had to do this build again, I wouldn't. But seriously, I think I can shelve Fury EK for the foreseeable future. I could try a Fizz variant, but as it stands, I've had my fun. This ends my Path of Exile update videos. Next week I'm making something different, unless one of you posts a brainworm in the comments.